that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah, open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AoA, check me out. Look, plugged in, you can catch the hype. Golden Dawn, how we follow the light. Anime like life, married to it.
All right, hello and welcome back to the AoA show. I'm your host as always, Ian, along with my boys Isaiah.
Yo, yo, yo.
And Gavin.
What it is.
And what it do. And today we wanted to talk to you about the Demon Slayer manga. So obviously heavy spoilers ahead if you have not read the Demon Slayer manga in its entirety. And by entirety, I mean up to chapter 203, because at the time of recording, that is currently the latest chapter that is out. We'll get into it in a second, but I have a feeling there will not be many more chapters after that. But yeah, just keep in mind, unless you don't care about spoilers, that there will be a heavy amount of them if we get into various plots, themes, etc. If you don't care and you're along for the ride, and you do plan on reading it in the future, I have to tell you that you're in for a treat because it's really good. But we wanted to pick up mainly after or during the Infinity Train arc and onwards, just because the anime has already adapted parts up to that point, and honestly, they've done it really freaking well. So I don't think there's much merit in going over a lot of things like that, but we just wanted to tell you our general thoughts, characters that we liked, arcs that we liked, scenes, etc., what we disliked about it potentially, and what our overall rating would be. Would we recommend it, and should you read it? So without further ado, let's get into it right now. Now, full disclosure, I will say, we did just record a 2-hour episode of this, and our power went out. We live in weird times right now where we have to record online, we can't be in person, and so all of that got deleted. So we were thinking that maybe it's a sign that we will condense our thoughts into a more short form thing. But if you wanted us to flesh out this topic a little more, if you feel like what we said just wasn't quite enough, you could let us know, and we will probably be reviewing further chapters of Demon Slayer in the future. And, any other topics that you guys might be interested in, we will definitely take into consideration. So anyway, getting back into it again, full spoiler alert. Obviously, I really fucked with the manga heavy. I know that these guys did as well. And I know, excuse me, sorry, just my voice cracked. And I know that Isaiah, in particular, had some pretty interesting things to say about the Infinity Train arc and the reasons as to why he got behind a lot of these Hashira, the 12 pillars, and starting with Goku. So Isaiah, explain to me and Gavin and the folks what really pulled you in, you know what I mean, when this, and he pretty much speaks for all of us, so.
Yeah, I think the Hashira are one of the, no pun intended, pillars of this story, right? And this story, which is a very character-driven story, and I think the main reason it works is because they're all believable. This is something that we bring up a lot when we talk about anime that we like, but most importantly, our favorite anime, and that's that they're very human stories, and that human stories are, for the most part, driven by very human characters, and these pillars are definitely no exception, right? Each one of them, starting with Goku, really opens you up to like how humane these people are, because when you first meet them, they, for all intents and purposes, can come off as like these people who believe that they are a cut above the rest, and like, you know what I mean, other demon slayers, watch out and don't walk where they're walking kind of deal. But very quickly, from the start of this arc onward, you start to learn why some of these pillars have this mentality and this mindset, and it's because the world they live in is not a nice world, and it's fucked all of them over in one way or various ways and shapes and forms, and quite frankly, that personality, fault, if that's what you want to call it, is just a way for them to, it's how they carry themselves, and it's the way they address composure in the world. But through obviously meeting with Tanjiro and his friends, and just through like learning about these characters' backstories, it's very apparent that, like, again, these are people first, and Demon Slayer second. And so Goku is just, he's no exception, but his whole mentality with like him believing that the only reason you should have strength is so that you can serve and protect the people who are weaker than you, is very easy to get behind.
I totally agree, and I feel like another, just like building upon that point, you said it before, Isaiah, at one point, that They do a very good job in the story at showing the significance, I guess, of a death if it does happen, because they certainly do not pull punches in this manga at all, and they will axe a character if they need to, which, you know, makes sense because of the world that we're in, right? Like, if somebody dies, it's pretty well understood that a lot of these upper moon demons are on a whole nother level than even the pillars themselves, right? Or at least some of them. So I thought it was interesting again, and very sad. There was a lot of emotions during the Infinity Train arc, but when, you know, Rangoku saw his mother, like Isaiah was saying, you know, in the flashbacks, and you know, Mom, did I do a good job? And she said, yeah, come with me, which is incredibly sad for starters. But I also like to parallel it to some of the demons, right? Because we saw it again with when they fight the Upper Moon 6. Well, it's two of them because it's the brother and sister. And even for like as shitty as these people are, right? It's like, again, we say it's like two sides of the same coin. Like a lot, the Hashiras and the demons for the most part have had pretty shitty upbringings. They've had pretty terrible lives. They've been dealt a bad hand. And it's really kind of the underlying lesson, at least that I derive from it, that this manga teaches, is that like your life is what you make it, right? For the most part. You know, and you have more control over your fate than one might tell you, right? You have the power to be something better, and without taking the easy route. And a lot of these demons, unfortunately, take that easy route, not the right route. So like, you know, again, it's like two sides of the same coin, which I find interesting in a lot of these fights and a lot of these clashes, which makes them all the more human. It's like a battle of ideologies in a sense, right? But I also feel, again, getting back to how they make the deaths significant and make you feel for these people when they do pass on. It's even interesting that you could feel remorse for some of the demons, right? Like when they die. And a lot of this is because of Tanjiro himself. You know, we've said it before that like Tanjiro has just this innate ability to be able to bring out the best in people. And even if he is, you know, talking to a demon as they are disintegrating, he has this amazing way of even taking these people that have fallen so far from grace and giving them at least this chance to remember a time when they were maybe good or showed a semblance of it, right? Or hold on to something that they genuinely love that isn't just themselves. And I found that deeply profound that they were able to do that in the story. You know, with every person or demon or character, you know, that you've run into thus far. And it all just speaks again to how much of an impactful protagonist Tanjiro is in this story. It's just like unparalleled, you know? I don't know. Gavin, what are your thoughts? Shoot.
Dude, honestly, it just struck a nerve, and I think it did with everybody, where it's one thing when you're watching an anime and, you know, you see like what's happening. It's compared to reading, I should say. And with reading it, it just made me well up so many times of just so many scenes that they were able to go into such intricate detail with all these individuals and have their own stories and not just be copy pasted over. And you felt for every single fucking one of them. And if it wasn't, then it was at least the majority. Like maybe one or two you didn't like really fuck with, but every character, dude, it was just like you learn their story, you just want to cry, and you're like, okay, it can't get that much worse. And then you get another one, and you're like, dude, what the fuck? And you keep on going. And I know for me that sticks out, jumping the gun a little bit, but the stone Hashira, Janami, he was like that story, dude, was the tipping point of me. Like I have never like loved a character as much in this story than I did him. Like Tanjiro, don't get me wrong, I fuck with him heavy. But like once I found this guy's backstory out and what he did for those kids and what had happened to him, and you know, things didn't happen the way they were supposed to, things got misconstrued. He went to jail thinking that he murdered everybody or he did all these horrible things. Went through, became a demon slayer, all his trials and tribulations, and like to just get the purity from his heart and how like similar it is to Tanjiro. And like when he gave Tanjiro like that acceptance where he's like, at first, you know, I was very cautious because I have to be for what I've been through. I'm not a bad person, I'm just cautious. And then when you finally opened up and then you found out all these things, dude, it was just so emotional. I couldn't even handle myself. And that's not even including the fucking like 5 other ones that they had to go down the list. He was at like the very end. And I'm just like, bro, can you please stop fucking with my emotions right now? Like, I can't take any more of this. And dude, it's just, it's amazing how it's a relatively new manga, and yet it's still like not an unturned stone yet in just anime and manga history. Like this shit just keeps on going, and people are gonna come out with more dope shit that's even more fire than the last. And even if it's not, it holds its own, and you just have to respect it. And I think that's why, you know, Demon Slayer, you might love or hate it, the manga or the anime, but at the end of the day, it's got my respect in terms of what they do with their character development.
100%.
And I feel like for you guys too.
No, for sure. I kind of wanted to go through like a little bit of format. And Gavin, I feel like inadvertently you already started it, so good. I wanted to know who your guys' favorite Hashira was, number one. So Gavin just obviously said his. Isaiah, who was your favorite Hashira? Not character, but Hashira. And I'm curious as to know why.
Probably Giyu, if I had to pick one. Just because, I don't know, he feels like, I don't want to say like the most real, because that's like, you know, I don't say that in a way of denoting the, you know, authenticity of any of the other Hashiras. I think they all have a legit like character development and a legit place where they are. I just feel like, you know, yeah, real isn't the right word, relatable. I relate to Giyu the most, I think, of the Hashiras, because a lot of his character arc is just like, is him feeling like he doesn't belong here, like he doesn't deserve to stay, you know. And the way they paint it, you know, from the beginning of this, you know, show or manga or whatever, is that like he's very standoff and aloof, and it comes off as, again, this air of superiority, right? That people think that he thinks that he's better than everybody. Now it's not until the training arc that they have right before their final battle that you realize that it's not an air of superiority, but an air of inferiority. He actually feels like he doesn't deserve to stand next to any of the other pillars. And, you know, it's not until really like sitting down and talking with Tanjiro that he sort of like really gains the essence and the lessons of the memories that he had, and like finds this newfound strength and this newfound sense of importance and value in his life and his goal as, or his role, I should say, as a pillar, but also like as a mentor, because he is, for all intents and purposes, at least I like to think about it, in a way, to Tanjiro, a mentor. And yeah, I related to him the most.
No, it totally makes sense.
And it's,
go ahead.
It's funny. I kind of want to go in on that a little bit, but how I felt with Giyu and Tanjiro's relationship toward the end, I really started to feel like just a brotherly bond between them. You know, obviously the pillars have immense respect for Tanjiro, like immense. You know, he's more or less a part of their lives now. But like, especially with Giyu and with them fighting together, like there was always this like back and forth of, I need to save, like, it was obviously like, I need to save Tanjiro's life. Tanjiro saved my life in this, but I really felt like their relationship together started to flourish. And I feel like coming out of everything that's happened, I'm really curious how they're going to stand at the end, because I really felt like they could have just been brothers, like just step out of it. And they're we're almost like unison. We're one unit. And I don't know if you guys felt that same way, but compared to all the other pillars, like, yeah.
He was the one that started it, right? He took the chance, and he was the one that sent Tanjiro to his teacher to learn to be a demon slayer. You know, there's a line that he has when Tanjiro stands next to him to face the what is it, the third upper moon, or third upper rank, whatever the rank name is, where he takes a minute to like notice Tanjiro's aura, and he compares it to when he first met Tanjiro. He says that, you know, this man is, you know, he's no longer a boy. He's no longer that kid who could do nothing but whine and beg in that snowy woods. He's like, he says it's no exaggeration to state that this man is at the level, if not higher, than a Hashira. And yeah, I think they definitely have a you know, mentor-student relationship, but I would also say like somewhat of a brotherly bond.
I also want to bring up, I think first of all, I would like to say that as far as Hashiras go, I really messed with the stone one a lot, or earth personally as well. But I will say, since Gavin said that one, a close second for me would probably be Tengen, just because of very different reasons. I love Rengoku. Like, I really love all of them, but like, I felt that he, out of some of the Hashiras, really served like more of a comedic relief, but it was not to be overlooked. It's in terms of his strength and ability. And that guy, and all like outward appearances, seems like a cocky prick, right? He's like blinged to the teeth. He's got 3 wives. The guy's immensely good looking in, terms of their standards. Like, he's got it all, right? And that's kind of the beef that the Upper Moon 6 has with him, at least the brother, is like, you don't know what it's like to, to be ugly or to be told no and all that kind of thing. But it's like deeper than that. He has this profound sympathy and empathy and compassion and love for his wives. It's not like he just has them to have them, right? He has a deep respect for Tanjiro, and like he understands that there's more to life, than just the way of the sword. So I thought he was an interesting and complex character. They all are, but like when you look at him on a deeper level, and that could be just because we actually got an arc with him, whereas like we don't get a full arc with a lot of these Hashira, so it's a little harder to expound upon their personality differences. But he was one that just stood out to me, and I liked him a lot for different reasons. But I did want to get into some of you think like some of the most impactful characters. If that is the same as the Hashira, that's fine. Or if there's anyone else that you like, I want to say that I want to give my shout out to Sabito, who takes a pretty relevant yet small, it's like, no, that's not the right word, because it's a large role, but it's not in the way that you might think, because unfortunately he is deceased right when the story begins, but I always loved him in the anime right from the get-go, because he was able, like Tanjiro but in a different style than Tanjiro, to kind of like bring out the best in people, but like maybe not necessarily the best, but like the resolve that people have hidden inside them. And I just thought he was an awesome character, and I always thought like, oh, I would have loved to have seen him make it, because I wanted to see what he would have been. And Isaiah just reminded me, when they had that conversation between Gyu, why he felt he was unworthy, and Tanjiro, and he was telling him his story again, it really just like made me remember why I love that character so much. He just had this air about him that just shouted resolve, it shouted determination, but it also shouted this uplifting nature that he had, right? But just maybe in a different light. Like, he genuinely wants Tanjiro to succeed. He genuinely wanted to save all of the other children, and like I just really messed with him. And then obviously Inosuke, again for completely different reasons, would probably be my favorite character, just because, again, comedic relief, and B, he's just the fucking man. That's all I got to say about that. But I don't know if you guys have any other characters that you want to dive in on, before we move on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought you were gonna go. Dude, honestly, I want to throw a shout out to my girl, Tamayo. I don't know how the fuck I say her name. The doctor lady that's a demon, or the medicinal lady, whatever you want to refer to her as. Dude, she's a fucking G. And you know what? I feel like not only have I slept on her, but other people do, especially her assistant Yashiro, because they both came in super fucking clutch at the end there. Not only with just the serums to revert or kind of change demon back into human form, but just with everything and poisoning, coming up with new concoctions, like staying on the back line, doing just all the dirty work to try to help Nezuko. Like, they're just such good people. And even though they're demons, like, they just transcend that whole realm of just evil and good, and they just want what's best for everybody. And there's just time and time and again, as I was reading, you would see him like, what was that one? The Upper Moon 4, was it? The guitar lady? Yeah, Upper Moon 4.
The replacement.
Yeah, the replacement. Remember when he was fucking like mind controlling her to like, he was forcing her to see a different reality to then report that back to Muzan. And originally he reported that 2 of the pillars were dead, and that was Snake Eye and his girl. I already forgot their names. I want to fucking kill myself. Do you know their names?
Yeah, I got you. It's Obanai. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, is the serpent, and then we got Mitsuri.
Mitsuri and Obanai. Yeah, well, he made them seemed like they were dead in that other demon's eyes. So they reported to Muzan that they weren't getting this backup. Like, she iced them. And then all of a sudden, like, you found out all this shit happened behind the scenes, and it was just this, like, literal kid of an assistant has his hands fucking in this demon's brain, just fucking manipulating their mind and pretty much doing whatever he wants. And I when I saw that shit, dude, I was like, you know what? Hats off to you. Like, I don't know how you're doing that and not, like, pissing your pants or shitting yourself, but you know what, dude? Hats off to you. You're doing the real dirty work behind the scenes. But yeah, much respect for him.
You're doing the real dirty work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Isaiah, what do you
dude,
got? Anyone that stuck out to you as like a profound character, or someone that you really resonated with besides Gyu, or you think served an important point to the story? Not that any of them didn't, but
yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's definitely, I almost feel bad picking one because I feel like it's like it takes away from others. But I don't know. Gun to my head, if I had to pick one, I'd probably say Yorichi or Yorichi, who's the original inventor of the sun breathing. Just because from a literal story perspective, I mean, his existence not only directly contradicts the antagonist, but also it is like his character can essentially be split into two different directions, and those directions define the main conflict of this story, right? It is his circumstances and how one would react to them quite literally spawned either people like his brother and Muzan, or people like Tanjiro and the Demon Slayer Corps, and it's like it's always interesting to me when there's a character that's like that almost feels like he's like out of time, or he's like the upper moon or the upper rank 1 demon, his brother refers to him as like this man was quite simply flawless, like he had no weaknesses, and like he did kind of just seem like that. This man had this aura and this presence around him where he had everything. It seemed like he had everything figured out, but then obviously you get like that flash, or it's not flashback, but like when Tanjiro is like sort of out of commission for a while in the fight with Muzan, and he has that sort of like weird like dream / kind of memory sequence with him and his wife and his kid, where the man admits to Tanjiro that essentially, as great of a swordsman as he was, as great of a, the thing he lacked, well, not necessarily, but like he wasn't perfect, right? That at the end of the day, and this is again like what I gravitate towards this character, is as good and talented and kind and just as he was, this man was still as humble as, any random person that you'd meet on the street, right? He understood that there were things that quite simply he just didn't have or couldn't compete when it came to people like Tanjiro, and that the importance of him obtaining the strength and the skills wasn't so that he could be the best at it, but was so that he could master it and pass it on to future generations, so that that knowledge and those skills wouldn't die with him. And it wasn't so important that he be crowned the best, but that he be crowned the person that passed it on to, future generations.
Yeah, and I think something also super important that happened in that little flashback with Tanjiro is in really just venting and telling Tanjiro all this stuff, even though it wasn't really Tanjiro, that whole spiel. But with that, Tanjiro, for one of the first times that I've really seen, he was kind of speechless. Like, he didn't know what to say, nor could he really. Like, it was kind of this weird situation. But shortly after that, he's like, what can I say to like alleviate the tension on what's happening? Like, what do I do? And then all of a sudden the little kid just kind of walks up and he just like was hug. And like right when I saw that, dude, I was like, don't do this to me right now. Like, please don't. Like, out of all the scenes right now, this is already hitting me. And he picks that kid up, and Tanjiro's like, whatever person he's emulating, he's like, oh yeah, like lift him up. Or Tanjiro was like, yeah, can you lift him up in the air? Like, I'm not that tall, this and that. And he lifts this kid up in the air and he just starts crying. And dude, I was crying with him. Like, that was such just a heavy moment. And like, I just felt like they couldn't have alleviated that tension any other way than what they had done. And I just thought that was beautiful in itself. And I literally screenshot that moment. Like, I'm looking at it right now, and I'm already just like with goosebumps. Just, it's so fucking heartbreaking, dude. So heartbreaking.
Yeah, there were so many times in this manga that I was literally like on the verge of tears, which I've said before is like not common. And so for a manga to be able to do that, like just pull that emotional heartstring like so well, and make me really have a genuine and profound feeling for these characters was just a testament to how well put together this really was. And like, it was just, a lot of these characters were just so great for all different reasons. And it was very human, the way that they expressed themselves. So hats off with that. Are there any arcs that you guys particularly enjoyed over others by chance? Like the train arc compared to when they fight the Upper Moon 6 compared to like the big war. I guess I would include Muzan in that fight as well. There any ones that stand out to you guys? I know for me, damn, it's actually hard. I present that question, then don't even have an answer for you. I apologize. Man,
I'll help you. I know one. I would say one of my favorite was with the Swordsmaker. And I know, like, originally went over that, but that whole arc, dude, was just fucking amazing. And I kind of want Ian to take the reins on this because I like the way he explained it the first time. So you got
yes, that's actually a good one to bring up. And you know what? I will agree with you that was one of my favorites. So I think it's obviously they're all worth talking about. But I also, like I said, wanted to take my hat. I'm wearing multiple hats now. I want to take my hat off to the swordsmiths or the blacksmiths that we see in Demon Slayer in the story, because I feel that the Hashiras exemplify the pinnacle of what human resolve can be, right? And the will to fight on and to continue in spite of the odds that are being forced upon you. And I feel that it shouldn't be overlooked that the sword makers do that and treat their craft with the same amount of fervor and respect that the swordsmen do. And again, Gavin going into, talking about that arc is very relevant because there's a lot of heartfelt moments that we feel with the people that are quote unquote not main characters, right? And that's something that the creator of manga does very well, is being able to not only have this emotional attachment, like I said, to the main characters, to the villains, to the demons, even when they're dying, except Muzan, fuck that guy, but like everyone, right? And it's like even down to these swordsmiths, people with these masks on, we don't even know their faces, right? And it's like you feel this genuine sympathy and this genuine connection to all these people. And it's like the one guy, when he's making the sword for, I believe it was was it Tanjiro or the Wind Pillar?
It was one of them.
Whatever.
I don't actually remember. It was
he's making it for him, and the Upper Moon 5 is kind of encroaching on his shit, and he's like gonna kill him, but he will not pull away from making this sword. And by any means necessary, he will get the sword made, and it'll be the best damn sword you ever saw in your life. And it just shows that it's like it provides a lesson for me in life that like everyone has a role to play, and it's like you don't have to necessarily be the best swordsman or the best fighter. You don't have to be the best at any one particular thing, although you should still strive your hardest to be good, and to do your best, rather, I would say. But like that thing can be different for anyone, right? But it doesn't make it any less important, is my point, and especially that, that harkens true with the situation that is going on now. Again, time recording, this is the 26th of April, and COVID-19 has kind of just taken the world by storm for the past couple months, and it's like it kind of harkens back to some of these news articles that we've gone over and some of the things happening in the world right now, that it's like everyone kind of has a role to play, and everyone can do some sort of good in this world, and you don't have to be doing the same thing as everyone else. You don't have to be necessarily a doctor to do your part, and not to make it all doom and gloom, but again, the Demon Slayer just kind of reminded me of that very important life lesson. So I would say that, that arc was definitely had a profound impact on me while reading it. I don't know if you guys had any other arcs that you enjoyed in particular, but I definitely like that one.
Nah, but where's Tamayo at? It's COVID-19. We need her like super medical fucking powers to come up with a cure right now. I'm just gonna throw that out
Yeah,
there.
right. Freaking waiting a little bit.
Yeah, like, wake your demon ass up. Let's go. You ain't dead yet. We need COVID-19,
For
bitch.
real. Isaiah, what do you got? Anything in particular?
I would, if I had to pick one, I would probably say like the final arc, like just the final Muzan battle. I mean, for I guess obvious reasons, a little bit at least. It was just, number one, it was nice to see all the callbacks, right? All the references to either character interactions and moments that the story has taken the time to, foster and build up. One moment that does particularly stand out to me is when Tanjiro is getting healed by, the demon doctor's apprentice, and it's him and like some of the other random Demon Slayer cores, but one of the guys actually isn't 100% random. He's actually one of the few that made it through the final selection with Tanjiro, and Tanjiro is the only one of those characters that remembered this guy's name and like remembered him. And you actually meet him before this final battle during the training arc, which happens right before this, when they're doing the rock training with the stone pillar. And he has this moment where one of his like allies is like yelling at him that they've got to go save somebody else, and this guy is clearly, specifically invested in saving Tanjiro and making sure he's okay. And it was just like, you see this moment of him displaying this raw, emotional attachment that he has to Tanjiro because of what Tanjiro means to him. And to me, that's probably one of the reasons that Tanjiro is such an impactful and, for obvious, one of my favorite characters in this story, is because his level of sympathy and his level of emotional intelligence really knows no bounds. And like the fact that like this moment even existed, right? The fact that this man was willing to do this just spoke volumes to Tanjiro and the kinds of things he's able to do, the kinds of people or things he's able to inspire in people and out of people, whether we're talking about the pillars and all the trials they overcome in battle thanks to their meetings with Tanjiro, even down to the moments where Muzan was attacking everybody and he's just going fucking haywire with those whips and shit, and the Hashiras are so beat down that they can barely defend themselves, so the Demon Slayer core members literally throw themselves in front of the Hashiras to just be human shields. And that was one of the moments of all the crazy shit that happens in that arc that, again, literally made me stop and like I had to put it down for a second and just contemplate that, because, the kind of resolve that it takes to actively throw yourself in the line of fire, knowing that you 100% are going to die, and the only thing that you're going to do is essentially be a human shield to give the person you're protecting literally an eye blink's worth of a second of time. And it's like, they did it, and they did it out of this 100% pure resolve to defend the Demon Slayer core, to defend these Hashiras, because they believe in what they were fighting for. And it's like, that's that good shit, man. Like that's just a good story. Those are good characters, and it was just so great to see all of that like cultivate the way it did.
Dude, when I saw that shit, when they were being like human shields, like I was straight getting Vietnam flashbacks from Attack on Titan, dude. Like I was sitting there like, nah, don't do this. Like, not again. I've already seen this happen once before. Please no. And
my soldiers,
oh my
rage.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real,
dude,
right?
I literally, as I was reading that, I'm like, no, I felt this before. Like, don't make me feel this again. And it did not hold back. And it definitely, oh, fuck.
Yeah, man. No, it hits, dude. It hits. So, okay. Final thing. Is there anything while reading this that you feel that you would have liked to have been different, or that you would like to change, or that you just particularly didn't vibe with, and why? Curious to hear if there's anything, if there's any one thing, or is this manga literally perfection incarnate? I know Gavin and I had a similar one.
I'll let you go in on that one, and then have Isaiah go, because I'm gonna end it on the very unpopular opinion.
Oh, yes. And again, I just say this because it's like not because again, this manga was absolute fire, and I'd recommend anyone to read this. But I'm just curious to hear thoughts, and we want to be truthful in our opinions of it. I thought if I could change one thing, it would be sort of like the power scaling. With various characters, Tanjiro included. Or maybe a little bit more explanation, or like training montages besides the ones that they had into how they cultivate these powers or these abilities and how they use them maybe in practice and then develop them in battle. And again, that's a very short form way of saying it. I might get some heat for that because it's hard for me to go in. Again, we just had a 2-hour episode before this that got deleted because the power went out. So we definitely went in a little harder on each one of these points. This is a much more condensed version. But sometimes it's nice to know that a lot of these abilities are straight up, I guess, earned, and not that they weren't, but it was just in a very quick way, you know what I mean, that they were. So it would have been nice to see some of the fleshing out of some of those things, because we kind of jumped from rank to rank pretty damn fast. But again, a lot of it was believable. I did really like the training scenes that they did show, and it did a good job of making me believe in the story and believe that these characters are capable of what they're capable of. But yeah, I guess that would be my only small, very, minuscule qualm with it. But I don't know if you guys had anything else that you would like to see potentially different, or that, you think another manga did better, or if it was just that good.
I honestly didn't. I mean, I know it just sounds like dick riding, but I really didn't have any, if I had to pick one thing, there's that one moment with Inosuke that again we brought up and talked about in length in our last version of this episode. That was just a little jarring, and it was all right, what? But at the end of the day, even the stuff that made me think never made me as quick as the thought came in my head, it was out, because I was just so invested in the story, and I liked these characters enough, and everything that was put into this story made sense enough that it didn't break the immersion. It didn't make me drop this and go, all right, I need it. I was still invested enough, and I wanted to see these characters and these moments play out and interact enough to where I didn't care. I was okay with whatever explanation they gave. To be honest, if anything, I wish we had gotten more time with some of these characters. Like we said before, there's some of the Hashira that get basically their own arc, right? Or the arc is heavily centered around said Hashira or said pillar member. I wish we had gotten more time with each of them. You know what I mean? I honestly would have been okay with one arc per Hashira. By the end, by the time we got to that Muzan battle, I was 120% invested in each of those characters and literally bawling like a bitch when any of them died.
Bawling like a bitch. Gavin, what do you got?
All right, so very unpopular opinion, and it's not even a bad one. It was just it's easy to play the if I had written this, I would have done this differently sort of deal. It's nothing bad about what actually happened and what has occurred, and we still don't even know the end of it. But for me personally, I wasn't the biggest fan of kind of making it seem like we killed off Tundro and then brought him back and then made it seem like we were killing him off again, and then having this weird Muzan zany stuff to then bring him back for a second time. I was very much in the camp of when it seemed like he died the first time and he had that big thing that fucking tumor growing out the side of his head, and it looked like he was dead. They said his heart stopped beating, whatever, he was done. At that moment, I was holy shit, there's no way he's actually, there's no way Tundro's actually dead. How can they progress? Oh my God. I had all of these emotions, and it made me appreciate him so much as a character, and it's just that general, depression. And the way I think of it most is, remember when we did that episode with Jamar, and he was talking about Neji when he died the first time, and he's like, dude, when Neji died, I never wanted to watch the show again. He put it down for a year. And then he picked it back up, and at the end of the war, when Neji did die, he was like, nah, fuck that bitch, he already died in my book a long time ago. Well, that actual same emotion is how I felt when Tundro died, where I had all of these, depressing, heartfelt moments, and I was like, this cannot be the show. And then they brought him back, and I was like, more or less, I was like, thank God, this is amazing, I'm reinvigorated. And then when they killed him off again, or seemingly made it look like he was going to die, in my mind, I was like, okay, now this is it. They already brought him back. Come on. They, what are you going to do? And at that point, I had made the peace that he was going to die. And then they kind of added that little, like, the little Muzan, like, oh, hey, I'm turning you into a demon. Now you're a demon thing. And then, oh, now we got to all of a sudden pull out, like, this random remedy to then turn you back into a demon to a human. You know, it just, not that it was slapstick. It just didn't feel right to me. Like, I don't know why. And I'm a sadistic motherfucker. And in some weird, twisted way, I think I would have enjoyed it if at that moment, like, Tanjiro died and Nezuko hadn't, like, woken up from her state yet, and in some weird way, like, she had this, like Muzan, like, kind of killed her, like what she did with the fourth upper moon, where he, like, literally just pretty much imploded her from the inside. I was waiting for some, like, Romeo and Juliet, like, really hardcore shit where it's like, oh, they made it to the end, Tanjiro's dead, and now Nezuko's dead, you know, because I feel like you can't get rid of one without the other just off their relationship. So I was really hoping they were just going to be like, bam, they're both kind of dead. It was very, like in this weird twist way where it's like, now it's just more in the, like, literal almost representation of pure serenity on this earth. And then now we just have, like, his soul living in us, and that's a remembrance of him. He's not physically here anymore, but he has had such an impact on every other character in this story that now Tanjiro lives in them. And that's, like, the end of the story and the continuation of now life is good. Like, almost like he was a martyr in a sense. And I don't know, I'm an asshole, and I'm probably a dick, and people are hating me for saying that, but in some weird way, I feel like I would have really appreciated an end of the story like that. Although we're still not at the end, and it could completely turn everything I said on its head next week. But that was just my 2 cents.
I don't think so.
Nah.
We're pretty much wrapped up.
I know you don't. I just know that I appreciate when characters die, especially when the Stone Pillar, when he died, dude, bawled my fucking eyes out, and I was pissed. I was like, you cannot fucking tell me. And they had the scene where all of the fucking kids that he helped were around him, and they're like, oh, you're with us, and they fucking told him everything that happened. Dude, I was crying like a bitch. And you know what? The fact that this fucking manga made me cry like a bitch the amount it did just, like, kind of goes to show how good that they did in writing it, and how much I appreciate when people die in these stories, and how I feel it's kind of needed in a sense. And I don't know if it's for me, like, I appreciate people when they die. I don't know. But I just could have seen that ending
I just picture Gavin, like, makes a manga one day, and any character that somebody writes in, they're like, hey, I really like that character. Gavin's like, gotta kill him off now. It was good. It was a good run. But.
I don't know. I appreciate not happy endings in a sense, more bittersweet endings. I don't know. I feel like there's more depth.
No, everyone's entitled to an
a
opinion.
story.
Again, it's strictly opinion, conjecture.
100%.
100%. Remember that. For
if you disagree
anyone
with
viewing.
me, comment.
Yeah. No, don't. It's just opinion. No, I'm just kidding. No, again, I mean, I think that the story definitely wanted to go in a different direction. I'm glad as to where it's gone. But again, that's why I asked, because I was curious. And I always like to give our unfiltered, raw, unapologetic, authentic thoughts on everything that we review, read, watch, etc., have a conversation about. So, you know, it's not just us dick riding one particular thing the entire time. But with that being said, final piece, does anyone have any closing thoughts? And what would you rate this manga? Would you tell your friends to read it? Would you tell your family to read it, etc.? What do you got for me, Isaiah? Any closing thoughts, and what would you rate it?
Closing thoughts. Tanjiro's the GOAT. Hashtag Shinobu's not dead till I see a body. And let's see, if I were to rate it. Again, man, like, heavily fucked with this thing. I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, that's solid. Gavin, what about you?
Dude, I don't even know how to follow that up, dude. I just let me be one of the wives of the sound, Hashira. I think I'd live a very happy life with him and his 2 swords. Now, honestly, dude, just fucking read this shit. Watch the show. They're both fire. I would be right up with Isaiah with 9 out of 10, if not 9.5. Like, this shit, honestly, probably made me cry as much as Naruto did, and that says something. At least in my book.
Absolutely.
So, really well written, really well written, unlike my spoken language, but yes, amazing. Give it a watch.
Hell yeah. I would say, again, Tanjiro is the absolute embodiment of empathy. And if anyone were to try and aspire to be like somebody in life or just take some life lessons, just take one right out of Tanjiro's book, because the guy is just naturally gifted with this empathy that's just unparalleled. You know, and a lot of these characters in this story just exemplify this amazing quality of kindness, you know, and in their own way. I would say that another thing to take from this is that kindness is never a weakness. 110%. It's definitely used as a strength, and you see that in the resolve of these people and the fact that they're willing to lay down their lives. They're willing to help build each other up is what helps them all grow together. So that could be something that's, you know, shown in daily life, and always do your part in trying to better somebody else or bring somebody else happiness, you know, as well as yourself. You know, it's not all about you. We all grow together. So I think that was really important. But secondly, Inosuke is best boy. He got robbed for the Crunchyroll Awards. And I would say I'm very excited for this movie to come out for the Infinity Train arc, because that was amazing, and I couldn't be more excited for them to be able to animate all of that, especially with the fire breathing and all of the amazing graphics that they've shown us so far. This you know, it's aesthetically beautiful, so I'm very excited to see where they put with that. I'm glad I read this. We're probably going to do a follow-up on a couple of the chapters that are going to come out. Again, if you're caught up, you'll know that I would assume that there's not going to be many more chapters of this story. I could be wrong, unless there's like some wild next arc.
Wait, did you say what your ranking was for it?
I did not, but I'm getting there. I'm just saying closing thoughts. Yeah, but yeah, we are going to be doing some of those. And then would I recommend this? Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, after all the things I just said, I think I would probably give it a 9. I would say like 8.5, 9 out of 10. I mean, like nothing can be really perfect, so it's hard to give out that 10 rank, but I think that this does a damn good job of coming pretty freaking close. So definitely highly recommend a read. And again, like I said, we're probably going to be following up with this in the weeks to come. So make sure you guys are staying tuned. If you enjoyed the review, we'll be kind of honing in more specifically on the more recent chapters that come out, and we'll be going in depth on those. But as always, folks, if you enjoyed the content today, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, hitting the notification bell, commenting, and sharing with your friends. If you're listening on another platform, make sure you guys are following there. Hit us up on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you guys are following there. And hit us up on the Patreon AoA show. It's in the link in the descriptions down below. Comment what you thought of the manga. What was your favorite arc? Who's your favorite character? What would you like to see? What rating would you give it? What are you excited to see animated? All that kind of fun stuff. Be a part of the conversation. It's not just us three, it's you as well. But until next time, folks, we'll catch you on the flip. Peace. Hey folks, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our new episodes.
You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AoA Podcast if you want to keep up with our content or suggest new ideas for the show.
You can watch us on YouTube or listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or more. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week to talk about all things anime.